Hello and welcome back. We are continuing our tutorial series with material application. We've covered lighting and composition. If you've not seen that video, you could check it out before this. In D5, material application has been made easy because D5 has given us the opportunity to access high quality materials without necessarily leaving the application. So if I tap M on my keyboard and you go through D5, there is model, there is material, and there is particle. A lot of these are free. If you want to have access to everything, then you have to have the paid version. I'm using the free version for this tutorial. Item here has a wood finish. So I'm just going to go ahead and search for wood here. Tap M, search for wood, and pick something that is close to the wood finish that we are trying to achieve. Okay, I'll use this wood even though it's not exactly the wood we have, but I'll tell you how to adjust it. So I'll click on the wood, we can click close, and once you click on the material, it follows your cursor, and once you click on the face of the material you want to apply the material automatically applies. There's something I forgot to do in the past video. The display is on clay mode, so I'll need to change it from clay mode to the normal viewing mode. So right now you can see the material I just applied. So I'll go ahead to edit this material. I'll type I on the keyboard, click on that face of the material, and once I do that, it's going to bring out the third tab here, which is Inspector tab, with all the properties of the material. If it's a D5 material like I have, it normally comes with a lot of other maps like the normal, the specular, the roughness. So that's to tell you the quality of maps they have. So the only thing I might want to do here, basically first of all, is to set the size. So I'll come here, turn on triplanar so that it wraps it into 3 faces like a solid wood. And after that, I'll adjust the stretch till I get the right size. So you can click and drag left or right while observing the size change in real time. And once you get, let's say, the right size of what you are looking for, you could stop. So I've just dragged this to this point and the size already looks okay to me. The next thing I want to talk about is how to adjust the color of a particular material. Maybe I have this wood, the feel is okay, but not exactly the color. You can do that in 2 ways. You can come to base color, click on it. Now it's not exactly on white, but if I take this on white, you see the color changes. So if I drag this around, you can see the feel of the wood and the color is interacting until maybe I can take it to somewhere I feel it's okay. So adjusting this color can help you tweak something that necessarily the material is not exactly what you want, but you can tweak it to something like what you want. I'll go ahead to repeat this material adding process. I'll tap M. I need a wood for the edges, just normal wood finish within this section. So I can download a wood like this, maybe this particular wood. I'll come to these edges, click on it, and the wood is applied. You can also add rounded corners. So you can see what rounded corners does for you. It bevels this corner a little bit. So if I increase it, you can see the feel it gets from there. Like I talked about the color, if you scroll up in the color here, you can adjust the feel of the color by having an interplay here and there with the color. So this is just one way to do it. There are still other ways. You can make this brighter. You can play around with the colors here. Also, going through the color map and clicking this, you see there are still other options, to either increase the brightness of the element you are working with, to reduce it. I might just leave this ones like this for now, and let's continue. If we select the material, if we use I to select the material, you can also edit the custom material by adding your own maps or just touching up the color. Let me say in this case, I just want to make this wall a little bit like a dark wall, which I have done very easily by just dragging down this color. If I want to reduce the roughness, increase the reflectivity, do some little things around with the work, you can easily do that. Let's talk about applying metals like this roof eaves, the downpipes, and aluminum to the edges of the window. which can also be easily done without much ado. If you select the material, like for example, I don't want to just stress myself going to adjust under the custom. I can leave it at custom actually. I'll bring this down to, let's say, a deep gray like this. And all I need to do is to increase the metal feel of that material, reduce the roughness depending on how reflective I want it, and increase the specular depending on, reduce the roughness depending on how smooth I want the reflection to be. You can see that on the metal. And then the specular would talk about the extent of the material. So if I scroll back, I can decide, oh, I need more specular on this for it to get more sun and less roughness. So that I have the feeling of a metal. And the same thing applies for aluminum frames. The next thing I want to do is to show you another trick, especially with applying of grass in D5. There are two ways to go about this trick. If you click on this, there is actually a grass material in D5 that allows you to you click on it and it generates 3D grass on object. And all you need to do is maybe pick the kind of grass you want and then adjust it. Now, when working on foreground material in D5, and this is very important, like in this case, we have gravel. Although we have displacement in D5, but I'll be honest to say that it's still coming up. This is gravel. We have maybe gravel ground. I can select something and just apply to the ground here. I didn't feel comfortable with the size of the gravel, so I just have to adjust the UV mapping, the stretch here. It's not as perfect as I want it, but I'm going to just go with this. I want to go back to this grass material very quickly, just prior to the ending, because there is a better way to do this. I'm going to just leave this at custom. So I can do this, and we have a brush tool that can allow you brush other components like model and grass. Yeah, so if you come here under nature, you can find grass. We can actually search it by typing grass and then search them. If we do, it can bring out some grass for us, and we can use the brush tool to brush it because we are not having so much grass. So you can see we have different grass clusters here that are free. So if I pick this and let me say turn on my brush tool, and I can pick maybe one or two, but let me just start with one. There are certain settings here we can do. One is to turn on align to terrain. We can also reduce the size, increase the density depending on how we want it to be. If we don't want too much random size, we can just turn this up on a bit, just a little bit like this, and also increase the size of the radius. So if we do this, you can see the size of the radius in this screen way. We can decide to reduce it depending on the size of our scene. And we can also decide to reduce the size of the grass depending on how we want this. And then we can actually polish on the surface of the material we want to. Now the disadvantage of this is that maybe it might polish on another surface we don't want to. But the advantage is that we have more control over a lot of things. And then you can use the brush tool to brush elements. Now, if you notice, because I'm brushing from far, we have some elements on the wall. There is an eraser tool here that you can just use to clean up things that you think are off the border. Now, this tool have many variations. There is one that is a path tool, there is one that is a brush tool, and like I said, you can adjust the size of the radius. I can also choose two grasses at the same time and try to create some contrast, maybe in between an existing set of grass, like I'm doing right now with having some a feel of touch of white in some places. So that's another advantage of this particular tool. For the path tool, let me say I select this and I want to use the path tool. And let me say I go to the top view by clicking T. You can use the path tool to have particular elements go across one line. So let's just say towards the edge of this particular element, I want to have a lot of grass. These grasses are looking big, but don't worry, since it's along a path I'm creating, I can decide immediately the path is created, press escape. You can select the path, and there are a lot of things to do here. You can increase the number of elements on the path like I'm doing. You can reduce their size to be very small like I've done. You can decide that you have random offsets from one another. Okay, this, I don't want that one. But I want like random spacing between one another. Maybe random directions, but not random spacing. So I can come to the 3D and just, then you can also bring these things down, you know, much more lower than you want them to be. The feeling you want to achieve is okay. So I don't have any view here, and the extension. So let's say I'm working on the line and I want to add more points to the line. So you can select it, and then there is an edit tool here. So this is how we adjust this. You can click and drag and, you know, have more. And when you are done editing the part, you can also increase the number. You can also increase the number of you are looking to use. Let's say I'm using this type of class. I can decide to, you know, add another one. Just with this application of materials, we've brought to life the whole scene. The high quality materials in D5 makes it easy for people to, you know, get into D5 and just become professionals. Now, even elements that you added in D5, you can adjust their materials. Let's say these trees are looking too black. I can come here and increase their brightness. I can select this. I can go to the base color map and also increase their brightness. So something of this nature, I guess. Something of this nature. It's getting white anyway, but you get the check. So let's say you don't want that feeling of so many dark trees. You can also increase their brightness behind you. So I'm going to stop here. I hope we've gotten one or two, and we'll continue with the rendering and post-rendering in the next video. Thanks for watching this.